Hi, welcome to a new episode of Harbinger China podcast. I'm your host, Faye. Today we'll be interviewing Ed Huang, co-founder and CTO of PingCAP, an enterprise infrastructure software startup in China. We will be talking about B2B software business, open source software, difference between US and China in enterprise software, and cloud computing. Welcome, Ed. Glad to have you on our podcast.
Thank you.
So Ed, first, would you like to give us a brief self-introduction and tell our audience about where you come from?
Yeah, okay, of course. I've been a programmer since I was 12. After college, I worked for Netease and Wandou Labs, two large internet companies in China, as an infrastructure engineer. Well, after working for Wandou Labs for over 3 years, I saw there's a huge pain point in big data storage. I used to spend weeks working overtime to scale our database manually as our data continue to grow. I think that is just not right. There should be a new kind of database to tackle this problem. So I co-founded PingCAP in 2015 as co-founder and CTO to solve this pain point. Besides my day job, I'm a passionate open source developer and a technical blogger.
So Ed, not all of our audiences are really from a technical background. Could you maybe tell us about the broader industry PingCAP plays in?
Well, PingCAP is a software company. Of course, our product is a database, which we call the TIDB, just like Oracle. But under the hood, on the technical side, it is totally different from the traditional database like Oracle or MySQL. It is designed for big data. And the distributed architecture make it possible to scale to any size. I think the highlight is that TiDB still has standard SQL query interface like traditional database. And that makes the migration cost to TiDB, from the traditional database, nearly zero for application that is already depends on MySQL or the traditional databases. Mm-hmm. Infrastructure software, just like water and electricity, I think it is industry agnostic. But from my point of view, all business should be data-driven in future, and solving the scalability problem for database is very meaningful. And database is kind of, standard software. SQL is the standard interface for developers. We don't need to do so many things like customization. So it is a key to scale our business. Until now, we have done proof of concept trial for over 400 companies in China. More than 13 customers have already used our database in production for more than 3 months. This includes internet companies, gaming, fintech, banking. I'm proud of the traction we have so far, but there's a lot more we want to accomplish.
So infrastructure software is a very hard business, and currently there's not a lot of Chinese players right now in this industry. So why did you start this business in the first place?
Well, agree. And trust me, if I can start over again, I won't do it. Yeah. Just kidding. Out of our 3 co-founders are engineers. Building systems like this is what we love, and luckily, we are quite good at it. And as I mentioned before, we realized there's a huge pain point laying in this area. I think the only challenge is who is the first one to become the de facto standard. On the other side, most of Chinese vendors in infrastructure area are, kind of system integrators and the IT service provider that use open source software, but just customize and sell to their customers. But they don't have the control of the project itself. Our business model is totally different. We fully control the project itself. And on the other hand, I think there's a big opportunity in China's enterprise market because I think the labor cost is increasing rapidly in recent years in the IT industry. and it is a chance. So, and paying for software to solve problems, not throwing more people at them, it will become the mainstream, and it is reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, you talked about China's cost in human resources is rising really rapidly. Not only we're seeing it in IT, we're seeing it in multiple vertical sectors. And that's why right now enterprise market is so exciting to everybody that's trying to get into this industry. We mentioned that it's actually pretty challenging to start a enterprise software company. And what are the current challenges that you're facing? Maybe talk a little about some of things you face on the tech side or business development side.
The biggest challenge is that the talent acquisition. As I mentioned before, the key is tech. In our industry, one good engineer can be 10 times more productive than the average one. Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the reasons why we open source and why we put effort in evangelism. We want more talented engineers to know us and understand what we are doing right now. And in our case, there is few database core engineers in China, compared to another area. There's a lot of good database engineers in the United States, but also I think it wasn't a hard decision for us to make. Well, by the way, we are still hiring. Our U.S. office is located in San Francisco Bay Area, so the resumes are welcome.
Yeah, that's an awesome trend that also our people at Harbinger is seeing right now, and talent exchange is one of the major trends that's going on between U.S. and China. Yeah, so very cool that you guys are having a office in the Bay Area. So when people talk about enterprise software, people really understand what it's like to sell the software license model itself. But you mentioned that you guys are open source. So what is the business model really like, just for listeners who are not familiar with how open source software works?
We have two options for our clients. One model is traditional enterprise license model, where we have an open source core product, but we have proprietary products around it, such as security and something like that. Another model is subscription. When we sell the subscription, the buyer is not buying just the support, but they're also buying access to these tools without any limitations. The difference between these two modules is that the license module is based on the number of nodes and the data scale. And in the subscription module, cluster size is not limited. We encourage users to choose subscription model because the more data in our database, the better it is for our users to realize the full power of our technology.
What are some of the verticals that PingCAP plays in? What are the early adopters of the technology?
As I mentioned before, we are industry agnostic, but right now we are focused on internet companies such as gaming, fintech, online services, because most of them are heavily use MySQL and suffer from the scalability challenge of MySQL. They have strong motivation to shift our solution and solve this problem. And I think, according to my observation, MySQL is widely used, of course, in recent years, the amount of data is growing rapidly. Shifting to NoSQL system like MongoDB or Cassandra or HBase would cost a lot of time and manpower to refactor your application. And our database just fill this gap. And another trend in infrastructure software industry is that customers are more willing to pay in China. I think it is because the labor cost is rising rapidly, just I mentioned.
So we talked about the verticals that you played in. What about market segments? There are SMEs, enterprises. What are some of the segments that you currently play in? And what about your plans for that in the long term?
Well, I think for the database company, in the long term, the financial sector, for example, banking, securities, insurance, something like that, it is more important. But right now, we are focusing on internet-related industry like O2O, gaming, fintech, services. I think in different stages, we should focus on different metrics. At early stage, just like us right now, the product itself is more important for us, not the revenue. And the real world workload will help you improve the quality of product. So I think at this stage, we should focus on the internet related industry. Yeah.
Great. So you talked about PingCAP has the main product is TIDB, and I noticed that TIDB has a really large number of stars on GitHub. So congratulations! And how were you able to achieve that? Was it difficult to market to an international developer community?
Well, I think there's no magic. First of all, everyone use database. Yeah, of course. And the problem we are trying to solve is so so ambitious. Not like personal project. We take developer marketing seriously. Although all of the original developers of TiDB are Chinese, but we still insist on writing all of our documentations and the code comments in English. I think that is really important. And we announce our release in Hacker News, Reddit, Google Groups, of course, our personal social network, just like Twitter, Weibo. And we are intentionally link ourselves with MySQL community because we are compatible with MySQL. And I think that strategy works. We have some English technical writers, not only translating documents, but also maintaining our social media, gathering feedbacks from community. I think in the open source world, communication is more important than source code itself. Well, just like I said many times, open source is not just source open. The attitude is the key. Maintaining community costs us about 30% of our total bandwidth. I think it is just worth it.
So Ed, let me switch gears to ask you a little bit more technical question. So you also talked about you see the trend of data getting bigger and people are moving to stuff like MongoDB and Cassandra. So in the industry, there is a big data movement that everybody's talking about. So part of that is a difference of the scale up and scale out architecture. So for those of audiences who are not technical, scale out basically means that if you have more data that does not fit on the one machine, you actually put more machines into your cluster and spread out your data that way. So that's a more modern architecture. And compare that to a scale-up architecture, which is if you don't have enough space in your current machine to hold all your data, you get a bigger and better machine with better hardware to store those data. So Ed, given that movement, what's your thought on these different architectures and where the industry is going?
Yeah, well, good question. Well, I bet on scale out. If you want to build a scalable and high availability storage system, I think scale out is the only way. And on the other hand, the speed of data growth is faster than the hardware evolution. But I think these two methodologies are not in conflict. Recent years, new hardwares are changing the game. I think there are a lot of innovations in storage and network infrastructure. We should just embrace it. Even though we choose scale out architecture, we can still get benefit from the faster hardware. Yeah.
Great. So we just talked about the big data movement. And as part of that movement, there's also, we see a lot of new open source software, especially new open source infrastructure software phenomenon, where, for example, we have the Hadoop movement where we have Cloudera and HauntOnWorks. They're both now already in the public market. And also MongoDB is a huge player in this. So what do you think about these players, and are any of these companies are part of what inspired PingCAP and inspired you personally?
Okay. Well, I think I learned a lot from MongoDB. Well, MongoDB did a great job in developer relationships and content marketing. MongoDB used their blogs and advocates make developers believe using MongoDB is really cool. And on the other hand, MongoDB optimized their deployment experience and the usability. So that makes you don't have to be a database expert to use MongoDB. I think it is a great move. And as you know, MongoDB is filing for IPO. It is a great milestone. I feel happy for them with my respect. But I'm still reading their S1 file, so I can't give more comments. But I learned a lot from MongoDB. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely it's very interesting for everybody in this industry.
Yeah.
So we talked about the open source players, and also one more big trend in our industry is that the cloud is rising so fast, and we're seeing a lot more cloud PaaS players that are pretty rapidly evolving. So how does these cloud players affect you, and what do you think about these adoptions in the cloud and where PingCAP is going with that?
Well, everyone thinks cloud is the biggest enemy for open source, but I don't think so. I believe in cloud. Yeah, I think in the future everything will be deployed in cloud. It is undeniable change. I think becoming the cloud native database is our mission, and we put a lot of effort in it. Well, I'm not afraid of database solution provided by the public cloud vendor, just like Ali Cloud or the Tencent Cloud. I think in the future, big companies don't want to be locking in one cloud provider. They will put their data on different cloud vendors. That means the database should be the independent component and provide a unified interface across different cloud platforms. On the other hand, we still build partnership with some of the biggest cloud vendors in China, including the Tencent Cloud, uCloud, as their cloud database solution. And the adoption in cloud, I think it's 50-50. Most of the cloud adoptions are internet companies. I think it is reasonable because their infrastructure is already built on the cloud. I expect traditional company to speed up their cloudification. I think it is the future. Yeah.
So the United States have a very long history of making infrastructure software and enterprise software, and China is just starting to pick up, and PingCAP is a great leader in this area. So as comparing United States to China, what do you think the Chinese players, especially PingCAP, can learn from the US players that's existing so far?
I think the most important thing I learned from the history of infrastructure software industry in the United States is that open source is the future. Well, as you can see, most of the new generation infrastructure software are open source, and it is an effective way to let every developers know your product, and it is modern development methodology. I think in the future, I think just open source is the future. Yeah, it is what I learned from the United States infrastructure software industry.
Great. And now I want to double click on an interesting phenomenon in China right now. So in Chinese, we have a movement in China called 去 IOE. So what that means is that to phase out these three vendors, IBM, Oracle, and EMC. And now it's like an interesting movement right now. So that really is an interesting environment for vendors like PingCAP. And in your mind, Ed, what do you think that means for the Chinese startup in this industry?
I think it is a good news for us. I means IBM mainframe, and E means EMC high-end storage. They are not so hard to replace, and there are many mature drop-in replacement in the market. But Oracle is different. database is the core of business. Changing database is not an easy job, considering the compatibility issues, the cost of refactoring existing applications. I think it is nearly impossible. But another thing you cannot deny is another trend. Internet is eating the world. Traditional industry is no exception. Things like e-commerce, online payment, SaaS, traditional industry is in the transformation. I think new business firms require new IT infrastructure, and they are learning from the internet companies. And the internet companies, just they don't use Oracle, right? So for us, just get with it. Try to become the choice of internet company, and it will enter traditional enterprise their field of vision. So I don't think, and on the other hand, I don't think the government mandate to promote certain technologies like IoE will achieve the best result. The product will ultimately win is the product that meets the user's needs with the highest quality.
So Ed, you talked about the differences of how the policy is different, the trends are different between the United States and China. United States has a longer history in enterprise software. So far as you're seeing it, what are some of the differences between how difficult it is to build an enterprise software startup in China versus the United States?
Okay. Well, I think enterprise software market in the US is mature. That means the pricing module, sales process, channel, specifications are well estimated. We just follow the rules, and everything is just like solving the math problems. But on the other hand, it is a fully competitive market. Engineers in the United States have so many choices, and they are happy to try new options. Of course, paying for software is not weird. It is very hard to become monopolistic. But in China, there's a few companies succeeding in enterprise software market for a long time. People thought software should be free because compared to hardware, software seems invisible. You can't see it, you cannot touch it. Yeah, I know that sounds ridiculous, but but it is a sad fact. People didn't respect IP, and in the old days, the labor cost in China is extremely low. So the software vendor, the system integrators, and the quality of their products and services are not stable. Some are good, some are bad. As the customer, the CTO or the CIO, that means the guy who has the budget, just hiring some engineers and build it by themselves seems a better way. Not buying the service from the software vendors. And so I think selling software became relationship oriented or channel oriented, but just not product oriented. Yeah, so that just made the margin is really low, and I think this is just unhealthy. But as I mentioned, things have changed in recent years, and the government continue to intensify protection of IP, and people realize the value of software. Yeah, I think everything will be fine in the future.
Yeah, Ed, it's very interesting that you mentioned the protection of IP. I remember when I was growing up in China in the 90s, it was a very common practice to pirate software, especially one of, I think, the main victims that I thought was Microsoft software. Their operating systems and their word processing systems are being pretty heavily pirated everywhere, and people didn't feel that was such a bad thing. And I think that's one of the things that really makes this enterprise software market in China even more so exciting, because we definitely feel that the trends in the market, like how people think about software has been shifting pretty rapidly. They understand that paying for software is important and understand why they should buy software. They understand the value of support, and also combine that with the labor costs you mentioned. People need to pay more money for their people, so they need to optimize the process. And add on top of that, the government or in general, they want to get rid of traditional foreign international software suppliers. That just makes this industry very, very appealing and very exciting for any newcomers like PingCAP. So very good stuff.
Thank you.
So one last thing we wanted to just for our technical audiences, we wanted to kind of double click on how open software businesses make money. So I know I actually asked you this a couple of times, but compared with the United States, what do you think of the open source software business in China? Because you mentioned that you were actually inspired by the open source software in the United States, but at this point, even in the United States, there are about 3 or 4 public companies that focuses on open source software. So it's definitely something that's very up and coming, and people are exploring how things needed to be sorted out. So what are some of the advantages and challenges that you're seeing?
I think what needs to be clarified that many people misunderstand this is that open source is not a business model, but open source is more effective way to promote, adopt, collaborate, and develop software. It is just not a business model. The potential to commercialize the product depends on the business value it delivers to its users. It is a simple example. Both Docker and MongoDB are open source companies, but the way they make money is totally different. We have a NewSQL database, so our business model will of course be different from the company with a NoSQL database solution. The solution determines the value of the product, and in my view, the open source is just a better way to promote and develop our technology. Well, back to the commercialization of our products. As I mentioned above, we have 2 options for our clients. Our users are not paying for the source code. They are buying the solution to fix the scalability problem of their core relational database. I believe the logic behind this business case may make sense both in China and in the US. Except I think the US approach to this problem may be more standardized. Of our business, how much money will we make depends on the following things. One, how big is the market? How big is the database market? We just think that the sky is the limit. Yeah. And another thing is that as product adoption grows, how to control your sales cost, both pre-sale and post-sale. I think that's why we are trying so hard to be cloud native. I think that will help us drive down the cost. I think it is very important for us. The market size of database products is massive. Just look at Oracle's market cap. MySQL is the most popular open source database in the world. So the remaining issues are growth, channel, and the cost control. Our technical team figured out the way to reduce the migration cost from MySQL to our solution to almost zero cost. So our POC cost is extremely low so far. Most of our clients don't even need us. They can finish installing and trying our products by themselves. So I think our pipeline growth is very healthy, and open source is viral in nature, which is why we are able to cover China's entire developer community with almost zero marketing spending. Well, I did have to write a lot of technical articles, which was a little tiring.
Yeah, I hope coming to this podcast is not that tiring for you.
Okay. So we have already formed partnership with several China's largest public cloud vendors as their cloud database solution. In fact, TiDB was recently launched on Tencent Cloud.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. And at the end of the day, our approach to business is not complicated. Make money by solving problems in a scalable way. That's all. That's fancy.
I really like that quote, making money by solving problems and doing so in a scalable way. That really shows your thinking around how to build PingCAP. Yeah. So Ed Huang, it's so great having you on our Harbinger China podcast. And today you talk a lot about enterprise software and the cloud and all the exciting things that's happening in the industry. I appreciate you so much for coming to our platform and hope you all the best with you and PingCAP. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for your time.